Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. So let's talk House of Dragon, episode 6, I think it is. This is the time jump one. This will be my spoiler review discussion. You know, these kind of reviews, people always critique because they're like, you're not really reviewing it. What do you want me to say? It's good or bad? There you go, done. We could talk about camera angles all day. But I think the substance of the story itself really adds credence to the overall review. You know, am I drawn in? Am I intrigued? Do I understand everything? Do I feel for characters? Those kind of things. Which I think only can really be revealed in a proper review when you can discuss everything with spoilers. So, yeah, take this as a review chit-chat, as it were. So we've done the time jump. Commend the casting. The casting is great. The actress that they got to play the older Queen, Alicent. Now, from what I've heard, is that they cast the older actors first, then found young ones. So, whatever it is, whoever is mimicking who, they do a bang-up job. So it's good casting all round. Because the older Alicent was superb, playing this sort of jaded Queen, politicising and scheming. Loved it. Really, really loved it. The older actress who plays Rhaenyra, you know what? Good. Not like bang on features wise, but you're never going to get bang on features wise. I think they've done the best that can be expected. So I would say really, really good all round. And it's interesting to see the story picks up obviously in the future time jump. I think it's been 20 years or something like that. A fairly long time. King Viserys only has one arm now. The type of leprosy is taking its toll. Side note, I don't watch the sneak peek for the next episode. So loads of people in my reviews, in the comments, keep stating what's going to happen next from the time jumps or, you know, the trailers for the next episode. I don't watch them. I like to go in completely fresh and unseen. So I don't know if he's going to last to the next episode. Who knows? I don't care. Like, I'm enjoying just watching it as is. So King Viserys with the type of leprosy sort of creeping in, arms gone, coughing and spluttering loads. I mean, he's hanging on. He's hanging on, and what a good actor. You know, I really feel for him. But this is a brutal world. And they remind you at every moment it's a brutal world, and they should, because it gives stakes. One thing I always commend the Game of Thrones world, whether it be this or the previous actual Game of Thrones, is that they're not afraid to go off and kill people. And it really does add stakes. And it's important because, you know, no one is safe. No one is safe. It always keeps you guessing. And this episode was no less of that either. So Rhaenyra has obviously moved off to a new person to be boning all these years. And it's the head of the King's Guard, who is also the son of the King's Hand, the new one that took over from Otto Hightail, I think it was. So there's an interesting dynamic there, because obviously, you know, this chap is sort of infiltrated, I guess to a certain degree, desecrated the princess, as it were, sired 3 kids with her. And this is kind of coming out in this scheming politicising of the Queen. And the Queen's sons, 2 of them, and a daughter, they're growing up now. One of them doesn't have a dragon, keeps popping off down to the dragon's pit. Probably shouldn't be doing that, mate. Probably shouldn't be doing that. But it's interesting because you're watching these kids be kids, and then the politicisation of their parents is what's splitting them apart. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because you think to yourself, well, I did whilst watching this, was if the kids were left to their own devices, would they subsequently hate one another and scheme against one another? Probably not. But obviously the adults have a jaded and albeit very realistic worldview, then they inject their hatred into one another. And it leads to this big sort of fight between the boys during swordsman training. And Sir Criston gets involved in Aegon's sort of sword play, basically, and saying, no, you should fight him, blah, 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 which is Rhaenyra's son. And then Rhaenyra's dad, not Rhaenyra's dad, I don't think they named them, they probably did, but anyway, the father, the head of the knights, the head of the King's Watch, whatever it is, got involved as well. It led to this big fight between the two of them where Kristen's on the floor being pummeled and going, yeah, I thought so, because he basically outs this guy as being the father and obviously desecrating the princess and soiling her loins and all this nonsense. And then that leads to the Hand and his son being burnt alive at their house because they go into exile. Hand doesn't. The Hand takes his son basically into exile to protect him, and they get burnt alive, all orchestrated by the Hand's other son, who's also been scheming and working with the Queen. But this is interesting because essentially what he's doing is laying the framework for, you owe me, Queen. I have dirt on you. I have killed my brother and my father for you to give you what you want. You all but told me this was what you wanted. So it's interesting. I'm kind of keen to see where that goes. Now, Daemon has married, obviously, the Valerian daughter, had two daughters, and was going to have a third child, and it essentially doesn't come out. Mother can't give birth, and they're having the same discussion about whether to cut her open to try to save the baby at the expense of the mother or not, the cesarean basically. She just walks out of there and tells her dragon to kill her. Which you're like, whoa, okay, Dracarys. Burn alive. And it's really brutal. And then there's all these key moments of brutality, which just sets the stage for many things to come. Daemon doesn't have a wife now. We know from the trailer he doesn't get with Rhaenyra, but obviously comes back into Rhaenyra's life. Rhaenyra and her fake husband thing goes back to Dragonstone because, of course, all of the plotting and deceiving and things. And I do wonder, because we close the episode with that, if Daemon will be there or not. It'll be interesting to see how that develops. But there's a lot of moving parts at play here, and there's a lot to be said for what could happen moving forwards. It's interesting because, to me, Game of Thrones was so long ago, this still has stakes to me. Things can still happen. People can die. I don't feel like this universe is hamstrung by the fact we've seen the universe in the future. This story, should I say. If that makes any sense. So, strong recommendation, always a strong recommendation. I do like this show. It is everything that Rings of Power wanted to be, but just isn't. Acting's 10 times better, the effects are 10 times better, the story is 10 times more engaging. It's not boring like Rings of Power is. So anyway, strong recommendation. If you've seen it, let me know what you think. Cheers. Take care.